What's going on, people? So, a few days back, I made a video discussing the Xbox One X, and I had a lot of things to say about it. A lot of interesting things, things that kind of took people by surprise. And I assure you, you're not alone in that realization because I'm just as surprised as y'all. I went from not having any desire whatsoever in owning an Xbox to it becoming my primary platform that I game with on consoles. It's a very strange year, 2020, I'll say that much. But considering I have such high praise for the Xbox One X, it's an incredible product, and Microsoft should be commended for all the goodwill that they've done to salvage the console. One of the questions that I got asked repeatedly was, hey, you like Xbox again, so are you going to be picking up the Series X? What are your thoughts on the console? What do you think about the console versus the PS5? What do you think about smart delivery? Microsoft's approach to next generation? What do you think they need to do to get back on top? And so I decided to make a full-blown discussion on it because I don't know if y'all have checked out the videos on my channel, but I don't really do too much of this next-gen talk, if you will. I've been on YouTube for close to 12 years now. And in that time span, I've only done a handful of videos talking about the next generation of consoles, mainly due to the fact that, I don't know if this is just me, y'all, but I don't care about tech specs and rumors about tech specs and all of this other stuff. I've been of the belief that provided you give me a good console with incredible gaming experiences, you have me there. All this other stuff that we're discussing, I mean, that's cool if you're paid to do it, but if you're essentially just getting on there on Twitter and starting all these wars over, Xbox Series X versus PS5 versus Nintendo Switch Pro, whatever, I'm not going to say it's a complete waste of time because that's your life, but it's a complete waste of time. We'll just let the games do the talking. So when we get to the Xbox Series X, like even before we talk about the console as a whole, because we pretty much know almost everything about the system, Microsoft has been very transparent this generation. And we're not even in the generation yet. We have to talk about Microsoft's approach to the future of gaming, at least in their eyes anyway, because there's been sort of a paradigm shift in the way that they've wanted to go about doing things. So as I'm sure y'all will recall, before this generation even begun, Microsoft had a very different idea of what they wanted to do to push gaming forward. You guys saw all the stuff they were talking about with Always Online and DRM, and we really don't need to repeat that sort of thing. Obviously, it didn't work out in their favor. They had to backtrack on a lot of things, and since that point, they're still kind of hurting from it. What they've been doing, at least in the past 3 years anyway, we've gotten a good idea of where they want to take gaming. Because for Microsoft, it's less about Xbox becoming one console that you game on and Xbox becoming an entire ecosystem for you to game on. Now, let me explain that because I know right then and there it sounds like just PR talk. Like, oh yeah, of course the company that's getting their ass kicked by Nintendo and Sony is going to say they don't care about sales and they don't care about competing and blah, blah, blah. Like from a business side of things, when a company says they're not competing, we know what they're trying to say. Let's just be real about life for a second. But their approach is actually something that backs up that sentiment and statement because Microsoft is more concerned about you gaming in the Xbox ecosystem. They don't care necessarily if it's on Xbox One, if it's on Xbox Series X, or even if it's on PC via the Xbox app. All they care about is you have a gamer tag and you're spending money. That's the most rudimentary way of describing things because it gets a little deeper into that if you look into like their future plans with Project X Cloud and things they want to do with streaming. But when it comes to the console side of things, because that's what we're all here for, we're gamers and we like to get excited about technology, it really echoes that statement, especially if you've been gaming on Xbox this generation, right? Because as y'all have seen, Microsoft has done a lot of goodwill to try to get back into the gamers' graces. Introducing programs like Xbox Game Pass, which is the Netflix style of gaming. In fact, I think it actually offers even more value than Netflix because Netflix, you don't get movies in the theaters day and date. With Xbox Game Pass, you get a lot of those. And even some of the bigger AAA titles from third parties, you get within like what, 3 to 6 months, 9 months. That's just insane. If you look at all the things that they're doing there with all the new features they're adding to the Xbox ecosystem and really listening to the community on the things that they want, Xbox One in the past 3 years or so, you get a good idea of what they want to do. They want to build a platform that is just overall great for gaming. That's what they would want to do. They want to build the best dang gaming platform possible. They want to continue to grow Xbox Live as the best ecosystem from gaming. Whether you are playing an online exclusive like Gears of War, or you're playing Fortnite or Call of Duty Warzone, anything you got to do. That's what they've been putting all of their time, money, resources in. And as I'm sure y'all have already seen by my such like high glowing praise for Xbox One X, it's an incredible product and a platform to play video games on. It really is. Because you start looking into things a little bit differently, especially the older you get. When you have all this technology, like it's great that it can do this and do that or whatever, but what do a lot of people value? Sure, they value power and they value the performance, but a lot of people also value speed. They value a console that can get them to the games really quick, get them to the store really quick. They value all the little things such as Xbox Party Chat being able to work, getting great quality from that. They value how connected the Xbox experience is from your console to your computer to your smartphone. They also value the little things like perks and kickbacks with the Microsoft reward system. Again, all of this stuff might not sound like it's that big a deal in the grand scheme of things, because games do matter. And yes, I'm not taking away from that. I'm not. But all of these things, all these little subtle tweaks and improvements and all these things that they're doing behind the scenes that people don't really care about, all that stuff is to make Xbox the best platform to game on. And just looking at Xbox, I can confidently say that it is the best platform to game on a console, because you get a lot of stuff that you don't get on PlayStation and Nintendo. Okay? So when you add that in, what they've been doing with Xbox One for the past 3 years or so, especially since the One X has been out, you start looking into the future. You know, let's talk about another problem that has been leveled towards Xbox this generation, and honestly, it's the reason why they have not been selling. There's not really a lot of support as far as their exclusive games are concerned. Now, this gets into a really touchy subject when it comes to exclusives, and especially if you've been as a part of the gaming culture for the past like 15 years or so. Microsoft has always gotten flack for redefining the term exclusive. Like, oh, it's an Xbox exclusive, but it's also on PC. So it's a Xbox console exclusive or a Windows 10 Xbox exclusive. And they try to find so many different ways to call things multiplat. So I'm just going to get it out there right now. I don't think Microsoft is really concerned with creating Xbox quality, Xbox console exclusives that you can only play on the Xbox. I just think that ship has sailed. It really has. And that's something that we kind of have to accept. But where my thinking has kind of changed in recent months is the fact that that's not necessarily a bad thing if they want to create these amazing experiences that you can play on both platforms, provided those experiences play great on both platforms. As we've seen in the past 2 years, they've really focused a lot on their PC games releasing day and date. So again, they're trying to get that type of an ecosystem, and they've been focusing on doing other things like Xbox crossplay, where you can play certain games, PC and Xbox gamers, cross-save, things like that. They've really been testing the waters as far as those experiences are concerned, but it was never universal across the board. Like if you played something such as The Outer Worlds on Xbox One, you can't do a cross-save on PC, at least from my knowledge. As I tried to play, I thought my save data would carry over. It didn't. Again, I guess those are things that they're still working out, and who knows, maybe next generation they might improve that. But I'll save that for a little bit later, right? So when you get away from the topic of console exclusives not being a thing for Microsoft, it's just games that you can't get on PlayStation or on Switch until a couple years later down the road if they're able to run on the Switch. You start looking into what kind of experiences can Xbox offer. And that has been where they've been lacking this generation. They haven't been lacking in the sense that there's no exclusive games to play, because you have those franchises. I mean, you have Gears of War, you have Forza, you have Halo, you have things such as Ori and the Blind Forest until it came to the Switch. You have some other titles as well, such as Sunset Overdrive. You have Rise. You have a lot of games that are exclusive to the Microsoft Xbox ecosystem. But if I'm being 100% honest with y'all, the reason why people say that Xbox does not have exclusives is because a lot of those games, I'm just going to come out and say it, they aren't that great. They aren't. And I know this is going to get me flamed down below in the comment section. Everyone's going to say, oh, you're an Xbox hater and blah, 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 blah. Whatever. But when you look at a lot of those games, there's no real fundamental problem with them. They're just okay. They're just fine. They're there, but it's not enough to get people either invested in the ecosystem or reinvested if they went from like 360 to PS4. Because Gears of War 5 is a good game. It's a good game. I'm playing it right now. The campaign's a lot better than 4. I love the multiplayer modes. Y'all know me. I love Horde like no tomorrow. But it's just another Gears game. You know? Forza Horizon. That series is like being consistently great as some of the best games of the generation. But it's just another Forza game that comes out, every 2 years? Something like that. You know? And where I think Microsoft has really dropped the ball this generation is, they say they're all about cultivating new IPs with this new movement that they have. They're building studios from the ground up, and they're over here buying all these studios. But when you look at some of the games that they've put out in collaboration with some of these studios, they weren't the best titles. Like, I'm just going to be honest now, Rise and Quantum Break, they aren't terrible games. They're not unplayable, but they're also not good. You know what I'm saying? There were some gimmicks attached to them that people tried to hype up. Like Quantum Break was like an interactive movie that would shake an event, and like all the things they tried to do with Quantum Break being like a TV show, and what you do there affects the decisions in the TV show. It missed on a lot of marks. Same thing with Rise. It was actually a really good launch game. Very beautiful visuals. Even nowadays, like if you put that on your PC, oh my God, it's insane. But the gameplay itself left a lot to be desired. So we've identified that those games, while they weren't great, they were, okay, at best they were fine. Where Microsoft really dropped the ball is that they didn't cultivate those. They didn't want to make them franchises. They didn't want to expand upon them. And I have a perfect example for y'all. Some of the best franchises that we've seen this generation, and even going back to last generation, like we'll just take PlayStation, for example. I know people don't like to do comparisons, but it's warranted here. The first Uncharted game, by all accounts, it really wasn't anything crazy. I mean, it was a nice, high octane action paced third person shooter, but it had a lot of gameplay problems. It was a bit repetitive and redundant in terms of waves and waves of enemies. But the reason why that game was a success was because of the characters and just the high level of detail with the cutscenes and everything about that. So Sony doubled down on that with Naughty Dog, and they gave us Uncharted 2, which is one of the greatest games of all time and one of the best sequels, and a shining example of what happens where you can take a game that, was just okay, borderline good, and you could just come out with a sequel that's just like, holy shit. I thoroughly believe that Rise and Quantum Break and Sunset Overdrive and all of those games, had they given the potential to have a sequel, even something like Recore, if they had the potential to have a sequel, it could have been just absolutely incredible. But for whatever reason, Microsoft didn't want to go ahead and pursue that. Now, there was a lot of things going on with each of those individual games, like certain contracts that Microsoft had with them for one game. Some of the studios closed down. Or just, let's be honest now, Microsoft, they didn't see the performance out of them that they wanted. They didn't see the sales, and they're just like, you know what? Let's screw this. We're going to cut our losses on this, and we're going to move on to what we're used to. Games that do sell, like Halo, Gears, and Forza. But then we have Ori and the Blind Forest, which is just like the smash hit of the generation. A phenomenal experience that you can't get on PlayStation, and you can't get on Switch. At least not the second game, for the time being. Right? So the problem with Xbox has never been that they don't have exclusive games to play. It's just the games that they have, a lot of them are really underwhelming. And at the same time, the games that are good are just more of the same. What you played on the Xbox 360. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but I'm thoroughly convinced that that's the reason why the Xbox hasn't really been selling this generation. Because the console itself is incredible. It's fantastic. It's like one of the best tech products out there. But it just doesn't have those experiences. And I'm thoroughly convinced that even though you have all these people who are saying, why would I get this on Xbox? I have a gaming PC. There's a lot of people who don't. Like that's just a small vocal minority. There are a lot of people out there who only game on consoles, and even if they have a PC, they would still buy that game on consoles. So it just comes down to the games. It comes down to having those great experiences coupled with having the best platform to play. That's all that matters. So when we dive into the future of Xbox as far as it pertains to the exclusive titles and everything that goes on with that, I do see a lot of stuff I like. I do like the fact that Microsoft is investing more in not only cultivating first-party studios from the ground up with the initiative and all things going on there, but from what I'm hearing in insider reports, they're letting a lot of their first-party studios or newly acquired first-party studios go ahead and work on other games. That's something I think we need to see, because while games like studios like Playground are great with developing Forza Horizon, I would love for them to tackle something else. There's rumors of them working on a Fable game. I don't want to get too much into the rumor territory, but I think that would be incredible. Just taking that level of creativity and ingenuity and applying that to a different IP, that'd be amazing. Like, look what Guerrilla did this generation. They could have just made another Killzone game and it would have sold and it would have been fine. It would have been okay. Killzone series as a whole is not that great. It's good, but not that great. But look what they do with Horizon Zero Dawn. Incredible launch for a new IP. And now the sequel, I wouldn't be surprised if it outsells it like crazy. That's what we need to see more of. We don't need to see studios dedicated to working on Halo and working on Gears of War. We need to see studios branch out and have the creative freedom to do those other things. And if it's a gamble, if it doesn't pay off in Microsoft's favor, that would definitely suck. Like what we're seeing right now with Bleeding Edge. 38 concurrent players on Steam. I don't really think that many people are still playing that game on Xbox or on Windows 10. But the fact that they let them do that as a pet project, like a passion project, 20 people, whatever, I'm glad that they're investing in that. Same thing with Grounded. I believe that's coming from Obsidian, Personally, it doesn't look that appealing, but I'm glad they're investing in doing stuff like that. Because who knows what might stick. And I'm really hopeful that with the proper leadership and management, this will actually turn out in Microsoft's favor rather than it just being a case of, well, we don't have a lot of studios. Maybe if we just buy all the studios, this will help us. Because that's where I'm kind of worried. I'm worried that Microsoft thinks that investing money just for the sake of investing money and bolstering a number is going to help pay their dividends in the end. I don't necessarily believe that's possible, because look at Sony. Whenever Sony acquires a studio, right, it's a case of them cultivating that relationship with them from the ground up. Sony had a working relationship with Insomniac Games for so many years, literally like what, decade, more than that, like 15, almost 20 years. And when they finally acquired them, it felt like a natural match made in heaven, because the work they did was incredible. So I really do hope that Microsoft, they just really support the initiative, no pun intended, in what some of these studios wants to do, rather than just say, hey, Hellblade was a great game. Hellblade 2, let's just give you a bigger budget and it'll be like an open world, because everyone, AAA, big exclusive experience. Yeah, you get what I'm trying to say here? It's not just the money that matters. It all comes down to the talent and being able to work with that talent from a leadership angle, like being the big boss, Microsoft, Phil Spencer, and then from the studio as well. So it remains to be seen as far as the whole exclusive gamble will pay off for them. Now, moving into some other things about the Series X, I got to say, from a design standpoint, I think that the Series X looks amazing. Just the small form factor, like literally the fact that it's just like a mini PC tower. I know it gets a lot of flack from people because it's just a black box. It's a fridge. People think it looks stupid. I actually like it because, again, going back to one of my favorite highlights of the Xbox One X, I love the fact that the system has just such a low profile and it's just ventilated very well. So the fans really don't kick up like that. It's got a really good system inside there. So if what they're doing with the design of Series X is to basically get it so it's on that level, yet provide all of that raw horsepower, I'm there for that. I seriously am. Because for me, with gaming consoles, you just got to be quick, efficient, and not sound like you're about to take off into space. That's all I care about. So design-wise, I think it's really cool. And it's awesome that Microsoft has basically shown us every single one of the parts that exist in the system. Like that's also dope. Really cool. Moving into something else people talk about, Xbox Smart Delivery. This is coming under a lot of flack from people, and I don't know why. I guess because they see that Microsoft is hyping it up, and they're like, oh, so y'all are just hyping up cross-buy. You know, when Sony did it, nobody made a big deal about it, but now Microsoft does it, so everybody's blah, blah, blah. Like that whole fanboy shtick. And to be honest, yes, it's true. Cross-buy and Smart Delivery are exactly the same way. When you would buy select PlayStation 3 games, you would get the opportunity to get them on Vita, or, you know, for some PS4 titles, you would get them on Vita, and for whatever reason, PS3, if you wanted it too, so you had 3 copies of them. But the difference between cross-buy and Smart Delivery is that cross-buy was something that was done on an individual game-by-game basis. So with cross-buy, it would mainly be used for the smaller titles. Sony rarely used them for their bigger budget titles. And even if they did, they were like smaller scale games on the PS3, on the PSN store. I think one of the biggest games Sony used it on was like PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, or Sly Cooper Thieves in Time. Again, those were games on the PS3, and with the Vita, they were comparable hardware to an extent. But after that, we really didn't see much of cross-buy. It only really existed in the indie realm of things. So if you bought an indie game on PS4, hey, you can play it on the Vita. That's cool. Smart Delivery is a little bit different because it's being used on the major AAA games, not just exclusive titles, but for a lot of the multiplats too. So being able to have consumer confidence that, you know, the games that you buy right now are going to be playable on the Series X with a lot of upgraded details and patches and everything of the like, that's incredible. That's really cool. I'm glad to see that because, you know, as a gamer, even though I don't have backwards compatibility, is not a stickler for me. It's not that thing that's gonna make and break whether or not I buy a console. It is a nice addition. It is nice to know that if I buy something, like let's just say, you know, we'll use the game that they're pimping out, Cyberpunk, and let's just say I don't get a Series X for 2 years. The fact that I can buy it on the Series X and not have to buy Cyberpunk Remastered, and I get a bunch of graphical updates and details and maybe some HDR and ray tracing and things like that, that's a really cool incentive. And then there's also a lot of cool things you can do with that too. So I had a lot of people in my comment section talk about how, yeah, you know, in my house, we have multiple Xboxes. And to me, I was like, why? Why does anyone really have multiple consoles like that? But now, with the ability of Smart Delivery, let's say, you know, you have the Xbox Series X in your entertainment setup and you're playing Halo Infinite, but you also have an Xbox One X in your child's bedroom and they want to play Halo 2. So if they have it so the account setup is basically like under a family plan, and you know, you can play them, both y'all can play the same game at the same time and not have to worry about like accounts clashing or whatever, that's a really cool incentive because you just buy one copy of the game and 2 different Xbox owners in the house can play it. So if they can incorporate it like that, I think it's going to be very, very cool. But again, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. This whole concept of Smart Delivery is something that's really going to be short-lived, at least right now, because once Microsoft stops producing games for the One X, what's going to be the point of Smart Delivery? It seems like just a short-lived thing to give consumers confidence, which by all means, good job, Microsoft. But as a whole, I don't think it's like something that's necessarily going to be a game changer. It's like a second tier type of feature that I'm glad exists, because I genuinely am glad it exists. But where this really could come to play is in the future of gaming, because if you guys notice, the Xbox Series is what this generation's Xbox is called. It's just Xbox Series. So if they do come out with that rumored Lockhart variant, which is essentially like what, an Xbox X Pro? Again, that's another good example of, let's just say you're a dad and you have two different Xboxes, one for you, one for your kid, you know, with the Xbox Series X being your beefy machine and the Xbox Series S, let's just call it that, even though the 1S was the slim version, this is going to be the smaller, more compact, cheaper one. Again, that's a really cool incentive. And who knows, like, what the futures will hold. Maybe they come out with the beefier version of the Series X, which would be like the Xbox Series X Pro or whatever. I'm just rambling at this point. But yeah, something like that is great for consumer confidence. In the short term, very good. There's going to be that middle period where it might be weird. But then long term, I think it'll still be much of a benefit. Another elephant that we got to address, there's just a lot of elephants here. Wow, you must have thought we were in, like, Africa or something. Will third parties utilize it a lot? Because as we've seen, they're talking about how third parties are going to be able to support it, but it's going to be on a game-by-game basis. They basically have to put in the effort to it. So my fear is that it'll be for a lot of, like, the bigger games and Microsoft's first-party titles, but for a lot of the other games, they just might not have the time or the effort, the resources, the manpower, whatever way you want to spin it, to go ahead and incorporate something like that, which is kind of worrisome. So I don't necessarily think Microsoft has to go in brute force and say, if you do this, you have to do that. But it is kind of worrisome that it's like, oh, so if I do decide to buy this game and it's not covered by the smart delivery, I'm shit out of luck and I have to buy a remaster. Or you don't, because the Xbox Series X is going to be backwards compatible, so you're good either way. So smart delivery as a whole, I don't think people got to worry about it much. The fanboys are going to overhype it, and then the other fanboys are just going to hate it and say it's overblown. To me, it's just a nice little incentive that Microsoft is using to craft the Xbox ecosystem. That's literally all it is. And other than that, I mean, there's not much else we can really talk about because, again, it comes down to the games. And like I've mentioned before, I would love for them to really cultivate those experiences, but we'll just have to let the games do the talking. But everything else that Microsoft is doing, from their messaging to just how they're bringing all of their accessories forward, like you can use the Xbox Elite Controller V2 on your Xbox Series X, and the Xbox Series X controller can work on the original Xbox One. That's an amazing feature. Speaking of the Xbox Elite V2 controller, just a little side note, I finally was able to find one. It was in stock at Best Buy. I ordered it. It'll be here tomorrow. I'm just so excited to experience that. But yeah, other than that, man, there are a couple of things that I would like to see improved upon in the future of Xbox. Like, if this really does take off and Microsoft is all about cross-play and cross-save with all your platforms, I do want to see more emphasis put on the PC side of things, because I have this gaming PC. And one thing I've noticed is that a lot of the games on the Xbox Store, the Microsoft Windows 10 Xbox Store, they don't run as good as they should. Now, some of them run great, you know, but others were just unoptimized, and there's no way that my, like, state-of-the-art graphics card can't be able to, like, run crazy settings around these games. And these games are just going from, like, 30 frames to 120 frames to, like, 10 frames in some scenes. It's a mess on things. But again, it just comes down to developer optimization and them keeping up to date with some of the stuff. So, you know, it's just, like I said, a title by title basis. But I would like for there to be more emphasis focused on that and uniformity across the board, so you can actually make it as good of a game experience as what you play something on Steam, which is the industry standard right now. And if they could do more as far as the cross-save is concerned, even if it's just for single-player games and you can't merge the multiplayer servers, I would appreciate that, because let's just say, for example, I do want to play The Outer Worlds while I'm on my desktop setup, and I want to go to the TV anywhere and continue that experience. It doesn't matter. You can swap any game out there you want. The fact that I can't do that cross-save is kind of a hindrance. Maybe it comes down to them not being able to do it, and it requires extra work. I don't know. I'm not a developer. But we are going on 30 minutes now. This is insane. That's basically my thoughts summed up on Xbox Series X as far as what I think about the system, Microsoft's approach to the future, and some of the things that I would really like to see out of it. Because I'm very pleasantly surprised, and I'm pleased as a gamer back on Xbox with what they've done with the One X. It's fantastic. So hopefully they keep up that momentum and that energy, and they give us the games too. They got that showcase coming out in July, I believe. So we'll see from there if all those games are really going to show what it's all about, or it's just going to be All flash, zero substance. Anyway, for me to you for now, my name is NGS signing out, and like always, I will catch you guys later. Peace.